Welcome to this edition of the Breakdowns video segments. Today we're going to be talking about the recruiting process rather than just a individual concept or anything like that. I'm going to give you some basic tips to how to navigate the process and things to think about as you go through your own recruiting process. First thing we're going to talk about is utilizing your high school coach in the recruiting process. You have to know rule number one is he is your biggest asset in the recruiting process. He's going to get you in contact with colleges. So it's a good idea when you start the process to meet with your high school coach, talk to him about what your vision is, where you want to go, get his opinion on where you should be looking at for schools, what division, things of that nature, and get a game plan going for your recruiting process. And then just remember that college coaches will always talk to your high school coach above anyone else and will always talk to your high school coach before they ever offer you or anything of that nature, depending on what level you are looking at. Next thing to think about is you do not need to pay money to get recruited. There are a lot of great recruiting tools and services that will allow you to showcase your abilities and get your information and film out there in an effective way. But there are also a lot of companies and resources that are just going to put you in their system, treat you like another number, and take your $1,000 a year to do no good for you in the overall recruiting process. You can do a lot of your own homework and a lot of your own recruiting, and any sort of outside source you should use is going to be a complement to your own efforts to get your film out there. And then just one final note on that is to think about colleges are receiving thousands upon thousands of blast emails from some recruiting services that are promising to get you in contact with other coaches. And we'll get into these recruiting services later, but just think about college coaches getting 10,000 emails from different huddle links from different services, and how many of those are they really going to take the time to look at? Sorry, just one final thought on these recruiting services. A lot of them will market to you that they've gotten these 4 and 5-star recruits noticed and gotten them scholarship offers and attribute all these offers to their own recruiting services. But what they will actually do is after these prospects have gotten these 4 and 5-star ratings, they will offer the service to them for free and use that as a marketing technique to people that aren't quite at that level. Next thing we're going to talk about is the importance of getting a good education in high school and having good grades. A lot of kids nowadays think that getting bad grades is cool, or oh, I just failed this test, ha ha ha, and laugh about it. But when it comes to your college education, having bad grades and being that hometown hero that couldn't go play anywhere and just ends up staying in their hometown, that's not what's cool to do. Not every one goes Division One, Division Two, and Division Three schools are all options. So a lot of those lower level schools will not be able to help you out if you're below a 3.0 because this is the minimum scholarship requirement for many of the Division 2 and Division 3 schools on educational basis. And if they can't get you any help through that, it'll be very expensive, and the amount of financial aid that they would be able to give you athletically will also be reduced. Also, take your standardized test, ACT, SAT early, so that way you have a baseline score, and then can also retake those tests to improve your score to meet the educational scholarship requirements, as well as the requirements to be eligible with the NCAA in general. Another important aspect of the recruiting process is film. So now we're going to talk about the film itself as well as the formatting to send out to colleges. It's important to get a highlight tape with your best plays and showcasing your technique, ability, effort, and things of that nature on film and sending them out to college coaches. So once you have enough game film to put together a highlight tape, it's important to do that. You want to keep it no longer than 8 minutes. You gotta think of how many of these 5 to 7 minute film cut-ups they're getting from multiple different athletes every day. And they're not going to spend 40 minutes on your highlight tape of every single touchdown you've caught and every single 15-yard gain, every single pancake block. So get 8 minutes, no more than 8 minutes of your best plays, no music, and be sure to highlight yourself prior to the snap of the ball so they can see the entire play, not just you finishing a block or you making the catch. They want to see the route that you're running, the attention to detail you put into that route, the footwork you put in as a quarterback in your 3-step and 5-step drop, the takeoff that you have from a defensive line perspective. All of those things are important to highlight throughout the play, so make sure you highlight yourself at the beginning of the play. And then while your high school coach is your biggest asset, it's also important to help yourself in the recruiting process. So here's a little trick or tip that you can use to help yourself throughout the process to keep track of all the schools that you're talking to. Create an Excel sheet with every school that has contacted you and the schools that you've reached out to and want to contact. Add the recruiting coordinator, position coach, and area recruiter from that school to the sheet with their information as you attain it from the school. Then keep a status update on every school. So you can have a section, a status rather, in a column that says contacted, they've responded to you, you've scheduled a visit, you've taken the visit, you've been offered, you've committed. And all of those things can be included in that Excel spreadsheet. Next thing is don't pay attention to the stars and ratings that some companies and websites will put out. No college team is going to offer you based on the number of stars you have or the overall rating that a certain website gives you. The most important thing to think about when you're in high school is to be the best player on your team and be a captain on your team to showcase your leadership and ability and be a guy that a coach is going to tell a college, you need to go get this guy. In today's recruiting landscape, camps are a big part of the recruiting process during the summer. So it's important to game plan for the camp circuit over the summer. So pick out a handful of camps, usually around, I would say, 3 to 7 throughout the entire summer. Make sure that those camps have a solid number of coaches from varying levels attending so you can get the most exposure possible, as well as attending camps of schools that you're interested in. And then also be wary of the camps that start before your school year is over, so usually around that June 1st date, because those ones aren't allowed to have college coaches there and are just looking to take your money. In general, it's just important to do your research on the camps that you're attending. I have a little story of when I was in high school. There was a camp over the summer that was being hosted at our high school. I'm not going to name the name of the camp. If you'd like to get more information, you can contact me. But the camp was $50 and there was no college coaches there. It was hosted at my high school, and my high school coaches, along with 2 people from the company that was hosting it, were the ones instructing the camp. I got no benefit from it, got no exposure to any colleges. They put me on a list for their recruiting database, but in no way, shape, or form did it help me in the recruiting process. And there's so many camps out there that are just looking to take your 50 or $100 and move on to the next city and do the same thing. So it's really important to do your research when you're game planning for camps. Next piece of advice is to take as many visits as possible, especially if you're interested in the school. This is where you're going to see what the program and school is all about, the kind of culture that they have. And before committing, take a game day visit, a day visit, as well as an overnight visit to make sure it's the place for you, and then to take notes on all the details from each school you visit while you weigh your decision on where to attend school for the next 4 years. Then our final piece of advice is make the best choice for you. At the end of the day, the final decision comes to what you want as an athlete and what fits your needs in the all-around package with education, football, culture, social life. All of that plays a factor into your college decision, and don't let others make that decision for you. This isn't just a choice about where you're going to play football at next week or next year or even the next 4 years. It's about making a choice of where you're going to go to school, where you're going to live. That all has an impact on the rest of your life, not just the next 4 years or next season of playing football. There are plenty of great options at varying levels. Not everyone is a D1 player, so it's important to take into account all of the Division II, Division III, 1AA, NAIA, and even JUCO options and find what the best choice is for you and make sure that you are doing whatever it takes to get the most out of your college experience through this decision. That's a wrap on our recruiting informational piece. If you have any comments, thoughts, or feedback on this video, we'd be happy to answer. Leave a comment on the video and follow us on Twitter at this page, The Breakdown, and at Coach_Swingle.